Hi, I'm Michael Gilmore, and welcome to this first edition of Inside the Business Mind, a series of podcasts that are really opening up just what's going on in terms of state of mind and performance for individuals and teams within business. Now, I was inspired to create this podcast series to help individuals and teams and businesses achieve far greater success by realising the human dimension was in fact the single most important variable that underpins all aspects of business growth and success. You see, an individual's state of mind, this is what most impacts creativity and performance on a day-to-day basis. Rapport with colleagues, fresh ideas, new thinking. This is what makes the biggest difference in business. I began to become curious about why it was that sometimes businesses didn't perform at their best when they were up against seemingly impossible challenges, and sometimes this seemed to manifest despite having, for example, really robust systems in place, great IT, great processes, and yet that wasn't always enough. And I was also curious about why it was that the most highly qualified people didn't always necessarily have the top jobs. And by that I mean the most academically qualified, the most experienced. There were other factors at play, and they weren't academic skills. These were things that you couldn't do intellectually. This was beyond man management or things like that, where we might ordinarily say, yes, that's a skill set, a kind of intangible skill that you've either got it or you've not. And this led me to become curious about how state of mind or personal mindset was having such a significant influence, or determining factor even, on performance. And what I could see for myself, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, was I was getting things done easily and effortlessly some days. And then complex tasks or projects were just being handled easily, moving on from email to meetings to telephone calls, sometimes whilst travelling. And yet they were done without objection or second thought. I was just able to get on. I'd been productive, achieved results. On other days, I'd get stuck. I'd be wondering what to do next, not sure of the next move, and I'd be trying to force it. I just wasn't clear about what it was I was doing, the direction I was going, and I was aware that this was the same, whatever your job role was. So I'd worked within management teams, sales teams, production and project management teams, and I saw that in any given moment, an individual's performance, including my own, was variable. So what in actual fact is going on is that there are principles behind how the mind works, a basic operating system, if you like. And so for me, it was when I uncovered the difference between embodied understanding about how our life experience works versus academic or intellectual understanding. I really began to get some more insight and traction on this. Then I saw for myself in my own life, and not only that, but in the lives of my coaching clients too, the more they understood the nature of their experience, then the more effective they were, not just at work, but in life in general. So in this first edition, I'm going to outline the 3 key facts to high business performance. The first key fact is that the mind works one way. That's to say, your experience of the world is being created internally by you, not by your circumstance. Now, this was certainly revolutionary for me, as I'm sure it is for you. It's kind of, well, what do you mean? There's got to be factors at play, aren't there, that you're bound to be upset by it. Surely there's things or circumstances that are going to affect how people perform. And it certainly seems to us to make sense that our experience is more than just thought, and the meaning we give it, well, I've seen time and time again that the more someone understands the fact that they're the thinker, that they're the ones solely creating their experience in the moment, that the more they realise that mood fluctuates, and that's simply our system working, then the clearer their mind will become, leading directly to far greater effectiveness, better decision making, and therefore amazing results. And we know this to be true. You know this to be true, because you can put 2 different people in exactly the same circumstances, and they'll both have a completely different experience. Because one might say, well, that's just the worst thing that ever happened to me. And for someone else, they'll say, no, it's perfectly acceptable. Another example that maybe more relevant I could give would be that this might ring true for you. It's something like a deadline. Now, when you think about it, how can that work? How could we possibly have any stress or concern over a deadline? I mean, during the weekend, when we're not even at work. And so experience, our reality, therefore, the personal reality that you're living in right now, it's not your circumstances that's driving that. Because that deadline, you're not even in the office. You might be nowhere near a PC, but you're having the pain and experience of that deadline looming closer and closer. And so where I got into kind of a little bit of difficulty in my own experience of this was that I was looking for complexity or making it overly complex because I was looking for a more, I don't know, it just can't be that simple. I was looking for something that was going to be much more tricky to implement, much more difficult to learn. And so intellectually, I think we can sometimes drive complexity into situations when what's really required is the opposite. It's simplicity. You know, it was Einstein that said, if you can't explain something simply, then you do not understand it well enough. We live in a thought-created reality. And so that's why we can sometimes be in a position where a problem is huge, where perhaps the team's looked at it, everyone's viewed it, and we don't really know what's going on. How are we going to present this to the client? Management can agree and say, oh yes, this is going to take some tact, and therefore we've got to put all our effort into that concern and ensure that we cover every particular point. And then when we approach the client, they may not be overly worried or concerned about it and just say, oh, thanks for letting us know, we certainly appreciate that. Or conversely, we can have a position where we're quite relaxed about something and for the client it's very important. And they're left wondering, come on, how could you guys overlook that? So this shows just how much of it is down to how we think about it. It's thought recognition. Knowing that our thinking is creating our reality of that given problem. It's not the problem itself. I mean, it can't be, because if it were, everyone would be aligned with their understanding of the situation, and there'd be agreement. And so it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, what level of seniority you're at. In the business, our state of mind, that's the universal. That's the one common denominator that everyone's up against. And as soon as you see how the system works, what's at play, when you wake up to the fact that we are thinkers, we're a thinking machine, and guess what? A lot of our thoughts, well, are they true? That's when you can change your mind or seemingly just flip on a decision or a position that you've been quite robust on previously. This is such an overlooked area, and yet mindset is the biggest contributor to performance, and also the biggest inefficiency to team performance, because if anyone's suffering from a compromised state of mind in the team, they're simply not going to be performing at their best at all. So a little bit of understanding of these facts, it impacts the outcome and the bottom line significantly. It's huge. And the results can also reduce stress and fear and provide people with that clear mind, enabling them to get into flow. The mind just works one way, and it's exactly the same for everyone. And your recognition of this, that's what's going to have the biggest impact on your life. And that will be both in business as well as personal. And the second key fact is that we're designed for success. That we have an inbuilt mechanism that assures us of this. It's this that enables us to access our infinite creative capacity, to get into that high-performing flow state where we can simply move gracefully from one task to the other, getting it right first time. It's our ability to almost blot out anything else that isn't relevant. I mean, we can just get in the zone and move forward intuitively with a clear mind, where we're just not thinking about anything else. It's almost like focusing without focus. We're just really clear on what it is we're doing in the moment and how we're going to proceed, and being certain of the outcome. We just know what we want to do. Flow states are available to us at all times. And this can be most useful when getting things done, whether ticking off aspects of a to-do list, or just being really productive in getting a strategy well formed, an email completed, or a proposal written, or solving a problem. You know, it's just when you're putting things together, or they just seem to be coming together on their own. It just seems to work. And when a team does this, I mean, it's so powerful because That's when problems are solved. New, fresh thinking arises because you haven't got this preoccupation or a busy mind that's devoting a lot of that resource to something else. Whether that's fearful thinking, stressful thinking, or whatever it might be, you're not really present with what's going on. And when a team is, and when they're accessing that, then they can solve seemingly unsolvable problems. That's where the biggest impact is, the biggest leverage point. Yeah. This understanding, it's being able to solve seemingly unsolvable problems. So it may cause you to wonder, so tell me, where's a clear mind come from? What's the source and how do I get it? Well, the greatest thing about this is that you already have it. It's the default settings of the system. So we're set to be built for success, designed to accomplish whatever it is that we set out to do, and so it's only our thinking which gets in the way. You've only got to look at a young child or anyone who's had a baby or been around children. They don't have a whole bunch of insecure thinking going on. They're very much in the moment, doing exactly what comes to them, free of decision making, and coming up with creative ideas about the next game or how to play or what to play. They're not giving that an awful lot of thought. And again, this is really a vastly untapped or underutilized resource. And so you might say, well, what do you mean, design for success, built-in mechanism? Well, another way of putting it is, it's like how our bodies have an immune system, a system that's perfectly designed for us to be successful. Successful in a world where we're under constant attack from germs that are effectively trying to cause serious harm. They're trying to kill us. And the body is it has a self-protecting mechanism to see us through these attacks all the way through the day, and so much so that, sure, when we've got a cold or a virus, we're aware of it, but all other times, when the intruders are overcome, then we're not aware of it. It just goes on in the background. It's the same as healing a cut on the surface of the skin. We don't have any thinking about that. The body's perfectly designed to self-repair, to self-correct, and often, just bring things back to, as good as new. And this is really what we need to look at, to consider if we are to tap into a far greater capacity that leads us to high performance. That brings us on to the third and final key, which is the fact that the deeper you realise that the mind works one way and that we're designed for success, then the more capacity and capability you'll have access to, so you can get done whatever it is that you want to get done in life, no matter what. Now think about the impact of that for a moment. You can get done in life whatever it is you want to get done, no matter what. It sounds very simple, right? And so I want to reiterate something in this area about the learning-based model, that it's not academic or intellectual-based understanding. Thought recognition is insight-based. It's the light bulb or aha moment. It's a thing that you just suddenly get. You get it like you get a joke. Something just clicks and you understand it. It's like you understand a complex movie plot, one that hasn't been overtly or explicitly stated, but you know what's going on because you understand it. You get it. You're keeping up with it. And this is simply what I'm referring to about understanding those facts. Because when you do, then this is going to show up in huge ways in all areas of your life, as it has done for mine and others that I'll be talking to during this series. This is the difference for what enables some people, when there's a lot going on, to keep their head, while all around them, others are losing theirs. So in summary, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast and what I've had to share here. So if you're curious or like to hear more, then please do get in touch with me on any of the points covered. Drop me a line. It's michael@litwithin.co.uk, and I look forward to hearing from you. Otherwise, please do enjoy the rest of the series.